the waiting room if anybody else pops in. So, okay, welcome. This is our autumnal wisdom workshop. And like I said, there's a lot that I would like to share. We're also going to go into a practice towards the end. I've prepared a lovely PowerPoint, if I do say so myself. But first, let's just pause. So inviting you just for a moment, if it's comfortable, to close your eyes, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, keep them open and maybe just soften your gaze. And just take a moment to arrive here. Turn your awareness to your breath. And not changing anything, not forcing anything, just really noticing the inhalations and noticing the exhalations. And just sensing into your body. Seeing if there's a way that you can get maybe 5% more comfortable. Letting yourself really slow down and arrive. And then tuning in lastly to what drew you here. Why are you here today? What are you hoping to receive? And holding that and then just maybe letting it go. And then as you are ready, gently opening your eyes and coming back to our shared space. And we will move into our time together. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Hello, Paula, you're just joining us. We have just done a short grounding, and in the chat you have shared if you were an animal, what animal are you today? So moving into this portion. Okay. I'm a pro today. Sharing screen. Bam. All right. So like I said, this is our autumn wisdom session. This is geared for fellow sensitive, deep feeling women to really prevent and heal burnout through the practice of seasonal living. And in particular, as we are in the Northern Hemisphere and moving into autumn, aligning with the energies of autumn and what that means and how we can really intentionally work with these rhythms to support ourselves, to find greater resilience, to find greater health, to find greater confidence. And Paula is a puma, Paula the puma. Thank you. To find greater confidence and to find greater health on all levels in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions. So today we are heading here. All right, we're going to do a little brief intro, overview of seasonal living and why it matters, looking at the different qualities of autumn, like I just started to talk about in the body, autumn foods, in the mind and the emotions and the archetypes of autumn, and then go into a little guided embodied practice to feel these things, right? It's one thing to talk about them and to have this kind of intellectual understanding, but I really invite us to begin to feel. And as sensitive, deep feelers, we are so attuned to these things. So when we can stop the madness and come down into the body, we really have such a profound opportunity. Yeah. Okay, so I know there's a lot of new faces here, and I'm Devin. Hello, welcome. This is my nice fancy bio for you, but essentially I'm an integrative health educator, a holistic coach, and a shame eradicator. That is my biggest passion in life, is to really pioneer innovative whole person, whole person approaches to transforming and recognizing shame as really the root of so many of our challenges, arguably all of our challenges, especially as sensitive, deep feeling women dealing with the cycles of burnout, overthinking, anxiety, people pleasing. All of this is rooted in shame, and specifically a phenomenon that I've coined feminine shame that impacts all of us regardless of gender and physical anatomy and all of this. I have a background in, like I said, in holistic healing, a master's in integrative health, certified in yoga and meditation and Ayurveda and breath work and shame and trauma and all these different things. So I say all that because you get to benefit from it. Yay. I'm also a highly sensitive, deep feeling woman, and that used to be the bane of my existence. So I am right there with you. Today, that is not the case at all. I really value that part of me. And like I said, teaching is my biggest passion. Although I won't lie, I still get that flitter of anxiety before I hit the start meeting button. And I don't know if that'll ever go away, but here we are. So that's me. Welcome. If I haven't had the pleasure of getting to work with you directly or meeting you yet, I really look forward to that. I'm really glad you're here. All right, so enough about that. That's not why we're here. I just wanted to, hi for new people. But we're here to talk about seasonal living and why that matters. So seasonal living, just feel into that when I say that, like what comes up for you. And as I am sharing, please feel free to utilize the chat. There'll be a couple of times when I prompt you, I'll have a question, but I really invite you to share, be chatting, be engaging. I'm speaking to you, but I also, I value the back and forth. So seasonal living is so much more than, like decorating for holidays, wearing cozy sweaters when it's cold and eating watermelon in the summer. These are all fabulous things. These are ways to practice seasonal living, yes. And it is about really something much deeper and aligning with these inevitable changes in nature. So it's about surrendering to the flow within us and around us and allowing that to happen, using it to our advantage rather than resisting it or resenting it or doing our best to just kind of overlook it entirely. And our culture tries to do just that, right? We as a collective really tend to prize going and doing and producing at the expense of honoring these natural cycles of rest, rejuvenation, going and doing, right? All of these other parts of this spiral. And really, when we tap into this resource that is just here, it's ours, it's our birthright, it's happening within us and around us always, we have a tool to heal this legacy of feminine shame that I was talking about and to really get to that root of burnout and overthinking, anxiety, people pleasing, etc. So in my work, I deal a lot in physical tangibles, like body, food, these tangible things that we can perceive through the senses. And then also these very subtle, nuanced, more energetic, metaphorical, archetypal things as well. So we have the 4 main seasons, each having its own sub-season for a total of 8 seasons. So we're in autumn. Autumn has early autumn and late autumn, and both feel very differently. What's your experience? I'm sure that, October 1st feels very different than December 1st. It feels differently in the body, in the mind, in the emotions. And so we aren't meant to be the same 24/7, 365. And so much unnecessary shaming and even so far as to say trauma occurs from trying to do just that, trying to keep up and uphold this very unnatural, unsustainable way of living that our culture really tries to, just shove down our throat, essentially. We weren't meant to live that way. And so when we can honor these archetypes, and I'm not going to go into all of them today, there's tons on my website. But when we can like plug in with these, there's a sense of permission and familiarity and great honoring that can come from that. And again, when we can start to look at ourselves as these holistic beings, these just multi-dimensional physical bodies, emotional bodies, mental bodies, and then this kind of spiritual, energetic part of ourselves as well, we notice that we're always in flux, we're always changing. And again, great shame and unnecessary trauma comes from trying to resist those changes by trying to keep up with a culture that demands that we be the same. We perform at a high level all the time. We maintain output, we maintain production all the time. So as we can plug into the seasons, like the tangible, literal seasons, and the changes that happen there, we begin to notice the changes that are happening inside of us always, whether we like it or not, whether we're aware of it or not, and whether we're honoring it or not. So as we begin to start to honor it more, magical things happen, right? Our health improves. Those pesky like mystery symptoms that we've been dealing with, those just really unstable moods, or again, those psycho-emotional things that we deal with the overthinking and the people pleasing and the anxiety, things start to feel more natural and more manageable. We're no longer fighting with ourselves. We're mirroring what's happening outside of us as it happens within us, just in this like ongoing dance. And so we can do that with seasonal food and lifestyle practices. For example, our diets shouldn't look the exact same in January as they do in June. But again, with our just culture of sameness all the time, we can get the exact same stuff at the grocery store, right? Year round. So it's like, we never know what the heck is happening. Kind of takes a little bit of awareness and dedication to kind of go against the norm, but it pays off tenfold. We can work with different personal tools and practices at different times of year. For example, shadow work is a phenomenal tool. I use it in the InnerSpark method. I use it in my own practices. And while we can and should be doing these things year round, late autumn tends to be a really potent time to bring those tools into play. Similarly, if we want to work with like the inner child, spring tends to just kind of be ripe for that. And again, these are just like guides, and my intention here overall is to really get you to start to use that deep feeling sensitivity as the gift that it is by noticing these subtleties. Okay. So I invite you to like listen to me more from here than here, as cliche as that might sound. That's what I'm inviting you to do. And so again, playing with the archetypes and bringing awareness to our emotional and mental tendencies throughout the seasons as they change as well. Things like seasonal affective disorder. I imagine, like, yes, of course, the lower rates of sunlight, for example, are going to play a part in our moods. They're going to play a part in how we feel and in our energy. My big gut intuitive kind of interpretation of this phenomenon is that it's also related to great shame that we feel because we feel tired because there's less sunlight. Does that make sense? So it's not the fact that there's less sunlight, it's the fact that we feel tired because it's wintertime, for example, which is exactly how we're supposed to feel because it's wintertime. But we live in a culture that doesn't allow that and makes us somehow feel that we are less than if we can't keep up 24/7, 365. So rather than like the lack of sunlight being a problem, it's our association with how it makes us feel. Much in the way that it's not so much our sensitive, deep feeling nature, it's our relationship with it. And coming back into this seasonal flow really helps us to bolster ourselves and our confidence and our resilience. So like I said, this is your magic cure to burnout and living a simpler, richer, and more nourishing life. It's one of the 5 elements that I have really identified and created as what every sensitive, deep feeling woman needs as she tends to herself. And here's an image of that over here. And so that this nature and spirit is that, and that's where seasonal flow and nature's rhythms would fall in. And it helps us to not skim the surface of life. How many of you feel like that's what you're doing sometimes? Not like going all the way in, but just kind of maybe skimming the surface, not honoring time for rest and rejuvenation, expansion, growth, like all these other things, right? Like we plant a seed and then a flower grows. It's like, it's not one or the other. There's a whole spectrum along that journey, just like there is within us. And we have many seasons. Oh my goodness. Your breath, one breath cycle, one inhalation and exhalation is a whole wheel of the year right there. A life cycle, the moon cycle, the menstrual cycle. Tell me what other seasons that you might be aware of within and around yourself. Can I see the chat right now? Okay, so moving into autumn, and let me see. Okay, thank you. Motherhood, yes. Recognizing how the seasons play out in that as well. What a beautiful, thank you for that. What a beautiful representation, especially with the planting of the seed and then the flower. It's like, it's the same thing. Plant the little seed and then we grow a baby. And then that whole cycle as well, once baby's on the other side and we're raising baby. Yeah. So autumn specifically, autumn. These are some of the qualities of autumn that I have listed here. And like, yes, these are literally, autumn is windy and drying, literally. And remember, I invited you to be hearing me and consuming this through a lens of energetic and metaphorical as well. So when something's like energetically drying, energetically windy, so just kind of look over these and feel into them. So like decelerating, harvesting, endings, reflections, maybe notice what happens in your body as you look at this list, as you feel into autumn. And I imagine we've had lots of autumns. We've been blessed with lots of autumns in our lives. So we're very familiar with how it feels. And so I'm curious what comes up for you. And again, I invite you to use that chat. Y'all are quiet. Are you here with me? Are you tracking? And so while autumn is mirroring this to us, literally, like leaves are falling off of the trees, wind is picking up, we can also begin to feel what this is and means for us internally on a subtle energy level, on a subtle level. What does it do to us when we see these things, when we feel these things, when we hear these things? So we perceive all of this with our physical, tangible body, and then what happens to us internally? And if you're like, dude, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about right now, that's awesome too. Let me know. For many of us, this is different and very different than how we have been taught, very different than how we have been kind of like indoctrinated in our culture, right? Life just seems to be sometimes like a thing to get through, right? We just like tolerate the seasons and we gripe about this or that, and we don't really pay attention to the invitations and what's happening for us on a very subtle level, and how we can use that to heal and prevent these things that really just like, you know, plague us, like burnout and anxiety and all of these things. So Paula always feels a sense of urgency to squeeze in whatever I can before the warm weather is gone. Like I need to get things done while I have energy. Yeah. So as part of this like decelerating and harvesting, it's like, what else needs to happen? And Alicia's felt irritable the last few days, but this is my favorite time of year. That is a good, what did I just do? That is a very good observation. We're still moving out summer's heat. And so it's not uncommon to feel some irritability, which brings us here, perfect segue. So some common autumn ailments, right? Aches, stiffness, lethargy, colds and flus, constipation, melancholy, grief, anxiety. And so you've kind of been sharing with me what you experienced during this time. And if you have other things that show up for you, I'd love to hear it. Especially if you're prone to these things anyway, autumn will definitely tend to bring them out more. If you tend to be somebody that has a little bit more dryness, air, lightness in your body, this time that is very drying, light, decelerating, you know, is going to bring this up for you even more. And so remembering that the qualities, eczema, yeah, definitely. Remembering that the qualities of autumn are what we just said. How can we bring support to the body during this time? And so I invite you to remember that like will increase like and opposite will bring balance. So think about that. If these are the energies right now, on a subtle level, metaphorically, literally, and like will increase like and opposite will bring balance, what do I need? So if things are like dry and windy and just kind of like, I would need something that's moist and still. So how do we help support our system? We ensure that we are getting enough quality sleep. Quality sleep, there's a difference, right? We've all had times where we've been in bed maybe for like, you know, I was in bed for 8 hours, but why do I feel like crap? Well, because maybe you weren't actually like sleeping and resting deeply. Really honoring the need to slow down, honoring this deceleration, noticing like, oh, I have this energy, like Paula was sharing, getting things done and complete, kind of like tending the harvest, and just notice how, like I was saying, the first half of autumn is nothing like the second half. So this decelerating will start to occur. And begin to favor slower, more restorative movement practices. So like, again, just like our diet shouldn't look the same in January as it does in July, neither should our movement practices. Yeah, so you're gonna maybe start to notice, like, I wanna go slower. And can you let yourself do that? This is where the work is. Can you let yourself do that? And Allison lives in Southeast Texas. We really don't have seasons. It's pretty warm and humid year round. Sometimes it gets cooler at night. Yeah, so maybe for you, your experience is going to be a lot more subtle, a lot more internal and what you're feeling. Because like, I don't have much seasonal change here at all either. And I where I grew up, I didn't either. And so there the changes are still there. And so it will just feel more internal for you, perhaps more on the subtle level. And Paula loves the changing colors and smells, tastes of autumn in Minnesota. Sorry, I was flipping Minnesota, but it always goes too quickly and gets cold. Helps to remind me to get in the moment, appreciate it while it's there. Yeah, what a beautiful reminder. Very in line with what we were just talking about, with favoring slower, more restorative practices, which tend to help us really savor things like yin and restorative yoga, walking and taking in the changing of the leaves, or the changing, something is changing, whether you're in Southeast Texas or you're all the way up north in, Canada. There is a change taking place, and being out there can help us to connect with it. And then again, favoring unctuous, heavier, moist foods. So like soups, oils, steamed versus baked, etc. And the roots. And honestly, this is like one of my most favorite things to talk about. Let this be a very intuitive thing. So like a lot of us are like, well, like what's a good food list? What should I be eating now? What's a good food for X? What's a good food for Y? And when we can tune back into what's available seasonally, and there are resources for this, because again, if you go to a grocery store or something, you're going to see the same old stuff all the time. But there is a website, I can share it with you when I send the replay, but it's like what'sinseason.org or something like that. And there are lists for your area to let you know what is in season for you. And so beginning to favor that. And as you do, as you start to transition a little bit, you'll notice that, like, of course, that actually feels way better. That's actually what I would like to eat right now. And using things like moist cooking methods as it starts to get drier before winter comes, because winter, right, the humidity starts to pick back up. If you live in a snowy place, that's going to start to bring more moisture. But right now, as things are drying, favoring more moist cooking methods over drying ones. So things like, steam sauteing and boiling versus baking, focusing on hydration. And as Alicia was noticing with the kind of irritability and the eczema that's flaring up for her, we're still in this early phase. So we're removing the excess heat from summer. And my God, was this summer a hot one? Everywhere. So a lot of us are a little too hot. We've accumulated all of that. So it may be a much slower transition. You might notice, like, I actually don't want a lot of cinnamon or like root stuff yet. And so we talked about how things like anxiety and scatteredness, agitation, short temper, fear, grief tend to be up at this time. And so things for increasing your concentration, I know for me in particular, as the wind starts to pick up and that dryness and that extra movement, that extra I think you get what I'm saying. I'm very for those of you that, like, this is your first exposure to me, hi. I communicate a lot more with like my hands and my body. Words are here. But yeah, as that lightness and that movement start to pick up, it can really mess with our ability to feel grounded and to concentrate and to focus. Has that ever happened to you? Is that your experience also? And then fear and grief. So fear, anxiety, and grief are autumn's like hallmark emotional states. And so again, practices to bring support. We can do meditations like candle gazing at yantras, which are images, and you can really have any image that you like. It doesn't have to be like an official yantra per se. You can have anything you want to. You can repeat a mantra, and again, this doesn't have to be fancy. You can just tell yourself, I love you, thank you, whatever resonates with you. Giving yourself loads of time and space to complete tasks. Avoid overbooking yourself and multitasking. And I know for many of the deep feeling, overthinking, overdoing, people-pleasing people, that feels hard. Is that the case for you? Giving yourself time and space and not overbooking or multitasking. And then lastly, leaning into self-inquiry and shadow work, like I said at the beginning of this, particularly with the grief, anxiety, and fear as it arises. Those are those hallmarks of autumn. Practices like journaling, moving your emotions, different embodiment and expressive arts practices can be very, very helpful. And Allison saying no to people and things is hard for me. Yeah. So do you find yourself overbooking and multitasking as those invitations pile up and not being able to say, feeling like you can say no? Yeah. I'm a mom of 2 kids under 4, so multitasking is just life right now. Yeah, I get that. And, oh, you're reminding me of a wonderful practice exercise that I have in my program, the InnerSpark method, the ACE exercise, and how there may be opportunities for receiving extra support or collaboration or eradicating something off of a list that we may be overlooking because of some beliefs that tell us that, you know, we have to do it all. We have to be on all the time. That we are squashing. We're done with that. All right. Autumn and the archetypal. So the high priestess. The high priestess. This is that that energy and essence of teacher, of mastery over something, of sharing and honoring the fruits of your labor and sharing it without attachments, without attachments to outcomes. So these seasons are, like I said, they're these physical, tangible representations of more subtle energies. And so I've created this wheel of archetypes of the mother. So the ways that this shows up for us. And we're right now in the high priestess. And each of these 8 segments has its very own distinct flavor and invitation. Like I was saying, early autumn feels very different than late autumn. Early summer, very different from late summer, etc. And so this high priestess, I really love the way that, you know, this is the time of harvesting and of bounty. And so we, inside all of us, have a bountiful harvest of gifts and of skills and talents and really wonderful, beautiful things to share. Most of us don't believe that. We don't recognize that. Some of us might think that, oh, they're like not good enough, or that we might be attached to them in some way, not wanting to share them, hoarding them because we're insecure, or hoarding them because it's like, well, this is mine. I earned this. I fought for this, and not wanting to share it. And so when we can look at these things around us, we can feel into ourselves of like, what actually is here that really wants to come out? What is here that where am I so full that it would actually, like, it's like hurting to not let it out? You know, I'm thinking of, and Alicia, you brought motherhood into the space. I'm thinking of like breastfeeding. I don't have children. I do know that, you know, when there's this like excess, like it needs to come out. Yeah, it needs to come out. And so it's this same type of flavor. And I say this not to like shame us, like, oh, you have gifts, why aren't you sharing them? Go be out there. It's like, no, I'm not saying that. What I am inviting you to realize is like, you are so much more powerful, resourced, gifted than you might even realize. And that can be given to yourself, and then like whatever else you want to do with it as you see fit. So that's really, like, in a nutshell, the invitation and the medicine with the high priestess. So I'm going to pause right there. I'm doing so well on time. I'm going to pause right there. And before we move into our short guided practice, I just want to know what's up for you. I want to know how this is landing. I want to know what you're feeling, what you're noticing in your body. I'm going to just give you a minute or two. There will also be space at the end for some sharing and questions as well. But just want to tend to anything that's coming up now before we move into our embodied practice. And also before we do that, I'm going to take a seat. Ooh, and not spill my tea. All right. Okay, well, if there's nothing for now, we can move right in. So, makes more sense now than when I first started working with you. It was kind of confusing at first, you know? Yeah. It takes, I would say, practice. All of this has been so shamed out of us, just erased from us, erased from our ways of being. And it's like so simple. I don't mean simple as in like, oh, you should get it. I mean simple as in like, as how I'm breathing right now. Like, it's just like, there's an of courseness to it. It's like, oh, well, yeah, this is how I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm meant to be. Not supposed to be. This is how I'm like, this is how I am. This is how I'm meant to be. And all the time and energy that we spend resisting that, all the time and energy that we spend going against that and trying to uphold these norms is just creating greater distance between us and our true nature, creating more dis-ease and allowing these cycles of burnout and anxiety, overthinking, etc., to just continue. And the reason that this plagues us sensitive, deep feelers so much is because we are so attuned to the natural ways. And then we had to get really good at overriding that. We had to get really good at ignoring that and like doing what we needed to do to fit in, to feel safe, to not feel so weird, etc., etc. We all have our own stories and experiences with this. But that connection has always been there, and that's where so much of that struggle comes from, is going against all of that. I feel like I have to please people 100% of the time, so I get anxious when I meet new people. Yeah, totally feel that, Allison. There's like a sense of needing to like perform, maybe, to put on the best, right? Like, oh, look at me, I can uphold your standards and your norms and be good and how I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I'm more comfortable with people who I feel get me, though. Yes, that's why I love our community, and I look forward to it growing. Not so much, I mean, sure, in numbers, because like there's lots of us, and we need each other. We need the support. We need these reminders, but also just growing in intimacy. So yeah. Okay. Well, let's move into our practice. I'm excited for this. So just take a second if you need to like shake it off, make a little sound or a wiggle, stretch it out, whatever you need in this moment. Just asking your body, like, hey, what do you need right now? And then once you have honored that need, no rush, inviting you to come back to a comfortable seat and close your eyes. If you prefer to leave them open, that is totally fine too, just softening your gaze. Just allowing all of this information to land, to settle. So just noticing where your energy is, where your awareness is right now. Perhaps it's up in the head. Perhaps it's outside of you somewhere. Perhaps you're not entirely sure. There's no right or wrong answer here. Just dropping your awareness intentionally down into your heart, in the center of your chest. Letting your breath be nice and deep, letting your body soften. I'm going to share a very simple yet powerful breath practice with you. So just letting that energy settle just a moment longer. Softening your body, relaxing your hands, your face, your jaw, your belly. And so this breath is called Samavriti. It's equal breath. And as you know, the autumn equinox, this first part of autumn, is one of 2 times in the whole year when there is equal light and day. There's balance. So if Mama Earth only has 2 brief moments of this balance, this equal sameness, that tells me it's maybe not, I don't know, her favorite or something that we should all be striving to do or be all the time. So for this breath, you're going to inhale for equal counts, hold at the top of the breath for the same, exhale for the same, and hold the exhale for the same. A good place to start is 4 counts. So let's practice together. Just exhale wherever you are. And then slowly inhaling for 4. Pausing at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhaling, 2, 3, 4, holding at the bottom, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, holding out at the bottom, 2, 3, 4, inhaling. So that's just a recommended pace. If you need to slow down, do so. If it is too much, make it less. Really honor your breath and your body, avoiding feeling any type of anxiety or rush. See how easeful and slow you can make this. See how soft you can let your body be. See how smooth and even your breath can be. And if your mind starts to wander, just bring it back to your heart. Bring it back to your breath. And feel what this sense of equal balance does in your system as you're practicing this. What are you noticing in your body? What do you notice emotionally? What feelings are present? What do you notice in the mind? What thoughts or stories or images come up? And lastly, inviting you to tune into that essence of the high priestess, that essence of bounty, harvest, gifts, skills, talents, mastery, sharing the fruits of your labor, this part of you that is overflowing. And taking a few more rounds of breath and holding whatever the high priestess means to you, for you, holding that and just noticing what's there. And letting your breath return now to normal if you haven't already, and still holding this feeling, this awareness of that part of you, this archetypal teacher that lives inside of you, the high priestess, the great mother. And just noticing what comes up for you. Again, no right or wrong answer, just openness and curiosity. Is there an image that comes to you? A sound? Is there a sensation in your body? And then one final piece, just asking yourself, maybe placing a hand on your heart, asking yourself, this part of you, what do I need to know right now? What does Autumn and the High Priestess have to share with me? What do I need to know? And then gently, very slowly and intentionally, bringing awareness back to your body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes. And as you are ready, slowly transitioning back to eyes open, back to our shared space here together. Okay. So I am going to turn it over to you again. I'd love to hear how that experience was for you. Yeah. Any questions or insights? Anything that was shared with you? Relaxing. Had you practiced this breath before? Was this breath new to you? Was it something that you would like to do some more of? Did it feel good? Do you have any questions about it? Did this part of you, this archetypal high priestess or great mother, whatever you like to call it, share something with you that you needed to know? Allison says it was eye-opening. I'd love to hear more about that. You're also welcome. So I have a feeling, I get the sense that perhaps if I turned the recording off, would you all be sharing more? I just got this intuitive sense that if we turned the recording off and just had our shared space with the few of us that are here, if there would be some more sharing. So I'm gonna just leave one final piece and then I will turn the recording off. So I have a special gift for you, a special offering. Autumn is my most favorite season of all. I think I'm more of a late autumn fan than early autumn. I love the late autumn, you know, between like mid-October to late October to like the 1st of December is just my favorite. So in honor of my favorite season and in honor of the InnerSpark method, my program, my signature program, getting a recent revamp and update, and I'm so excited and just thrilled to share that program. I am offering 5 women who are ready to begin by like next week, late next week, a nice discount on that. So if you're curious about what that looks like, if you're curious like about the program and you would like more details, let's hop on a call together. Like very no pressure. I'm really just into connecting and sharing resources. And so if I believe that that would be a good fit for you, then I'd totally love to have you. If I feel like maybe something else or whatever, but I'm just really love to connect with the women in my community. So if you would like to schedule some time to talk about that, I would love, love, love to talk to you. And I'm sending you 1,000 autumnal blessings. So let's turn the recording off. Let's stop the share. Let's stop the